Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. We are happy to be back after the Christmas holiday. Lindsay, how was your Christmas?
It was so beautiful. Kinsley got all her gifts. She's young, so she likes small gifts. But also,
Santa was good to her?
He was really good. Well, Santa, no, I don't want to tell the kids out there. Santa was very nice to her. But Colin, my partner, his birthday is the day before Christmas Eve.
One of those.
So we must celebrate separately. I don't know if you have one of those in your family or anybody in December. So we did a whole thing on the 24th. We went to this place called the Bar Room. It's at the Beekman Hotel in New York and had like this elaborate celebration. So I feel like I was Santa twice.
I see.
But it was
That's
nice. It is a lot. It's a lot of celebrating, but you got to be happy. How was yours?
It was great. I was in Detroit to visit my dad and some family there, friends, and then we went to Miami actually on Christmas Day for a couple of days of sunshine and splash around in the ocean, which I love. And
what's flying like on Christmas Day?
I have done this the last 3 Christmases in a row. I fly on Christmas Day. The last couple of years I've flown back to D.C. that day. It's great. There's no one at the airport.
Oh, it's good? I was like, it's either really good or really bad.
No, it's on Christmas. There's nobody. It's
nice.
Great.
Okay. That's a hack I got to take up. Coming up on Rising, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is speaking out against certain aspects of AI and attempting to stop its growth in his home state.
Plus, the FBI says that they're investigating a fraud scheme in Minnesota after a viral video from a YouTuber exposed that.
And New York City's mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is feuding with Elon Musk over Mamdani's pick to head the FDNY. But first, Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, 'tis the Christmas season, but one member of Congress is behaving like a real Grinch. And sadly, it's a congressman that I rather like, Democratic Representative Khanna of California. Khanna is an independent-minded and reasonable Dem who wants to make life better for working Americans, and that's good, but his idea for how to accomplish that is just terrible. He supports a wealth tax on rich Californians, a tax that would surely drive some of the most successful businessmen and entrepreneurs out of the state. Indeed, Peter Thiel and Larry Page are already talking about fleeing California, to which Khanna responded on X, "I echo what FDR said with sarcasm of economic royalists when they threatened to leave. I will miss them very much." Sarcasm. Say it ain't so, Ro, because you might actually miss the most productive and important cogs in the economy after you chase them away. Now, I know some people watching this will say, what's so wrong with this proposal, which has taken the form of a proposed ballot measure for California's state ballot? If it does appear on the ballot and is approved by the voters, then Californians worth more than $1 billion will have to cop up 5% of their assets. According to the New York Times, that means a one-time retroactive payment of $12 billion for Larry Page and $1.2 billion for Thiel. Now, for a coherent argument against taxing unrealized gains in particular, I turn to Khanna, who said this as recently as last year.
Let me tell you why I don't think a blanket tax on unrealized gain is a good thing. I mean, let's say you're an entrepreneur. You create a company. It gets to 100 million or 200 million on paper. Now, if you're taxing that, you're probably going to force that person to sell it. They're probably going to sell it to private equity. Do you really want the entrepreneurs to be forced to sell their companies to larger institutions and to decline in value? I don't think that that's what you want for a startup ecosystem.
Unintended consequence.
Pretty good point. But in fairness to Khanna, he says the current proposal is slightly different, though it does, as far as I can tell, tax total assets, including those unrealized gains on paper. As for the billionaires, look, it's true. These guys have a lot of money. They won't suddenly starve because the state confiscated billions of dollars from them. The rich should have to pay their fair share, just like everybody else. But look, a massive transfer of wealth from the most successful Americans to state government coffers is just not a sustainable solution to the problems of blue state budgeting. For one thing, these rich Californians could very well leave the state, head for a friendlier state like Texas or Florida. Red states would be happy to have them. The California brain drain is real. Entrepreneurs are fleeing the state, and more will go if the people decide to eat the rich. But beyond merely the practical considerations, I think we ought to reject the idea that taking more money from rich people, people who earned it for themselves, is a noble way to pay for government services. So let me be very, very clear. Insufficient taxes are not the reason that blue states are having so much trouble running themselves. The government takes in massive amounts of revenue that it misspends. The problem is waste and fraud and abuse, and we are seeing that made very apparent in the state of Minnesota, where fraud after fraud is now being uncovered. The latest wrinkle, child care centers that received millions in state funding, even though no actual children are enrolled there, according to reports. Now, we'll talk about that in greater detail a little bit later. Democrats have gotten it in their heads that they can fix all their budgetary woes if they just confiscate more money from the wealthy, from the productive, from the successful. Because raising taxes is easy. Actually doing their jobs, making sure public resources are spent appropriately, and prosecuting fraudsters so that this doesn't become a recurring thing, that's all quite difficult, I guess. It takes real work. Yet it's the only way to really get one's fiscal house in order. We cannot balance the budget on the backs of the rich. They'll simply leave. And then Californians will really be stuck with a shrinking economy, an unsustainable welfare system, and a well-earned crisis of faith in state government. My advice to the Democrats, stop looking for shortcuts. Spend more time tracking down the apparently billions that have been stolen by these thieves. And we're going to talk more about the welfare allegations in Minnesota a little bit later on the show. But for now, Khanna, wealth tax. I agreed with him the first time. You can't tax unrealized capital gains because then you force people to, say if it's you started a company, whatever, it's valued at, I don't know, 10 million on paper. You tax that, well, they got to sell it to make the money to pay. Like, they don't have the money yet. Right. They got to sell it to make the money to pay the tax. It's stupid.
I like how pleasant you are to Khanna. Even when he gets on your nerves, you have.
Well, I do like him. I've nothing.
In fairness, but no, other Democrats, you're like, if it's Jasmine Crockett that would have said this, you would have went off. But I appreciate
that is
how fair you are to Khanna.
Guilty as charged.
Okay.
I like Khanna a lot more.
So in 2020, California tried something like this. It was like a 0.4% tax that they wanted to pass, which was even less than this proposed tax. And it didn't pass through the legislature. So the chance of this even higher tax passing through is probably slim to none, but maybe people have an appetite because it is a noble cause, right? They want to help out healthcare in the state and they want more federal resources in the state. And so this is just...
I want a pony.
Okay, well, ask Santa
it's
for
that
Christmas,
kind of
and I'm Santa. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's part of the bigger deal, but the wealth concentration is real. Like when we think about California and how it's made its money with a lot of the tech centers being there and a lot of people growing in the last 2 decades there, I mean, the people are fueling the economy. And when the people can't afford to live or can't afford to have health insurance, you got to think about the better of all people. And so I know that when you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, people can't even fathom that. But also as a businesswoman myself, not a billionaire, could still understand that it kind of deters the people that are achieving the American dream and have these ideas and went out on these wild goose chases to make them happen. And then somebody says, well, outside of paying what could be up to 53% of taxes of your money in California already, let's slap you with another 5% because you made it. And
it's going to move to Texas.
Yeah, so it just feels like, aggressive. It feels like it will have a chilling effect on risk-taking and anybody in the business world. But, to talk about the supporting side, the money is supposed to be earmarked. So if you talk about where money in this particular legislation would go, 90% of it is supposed to go to revenue that would go directly to healthcare. So when people say they're collecting taxes, a lot of people say, where did my tax money go? And how is that worth it? Like my streets still have potholes, blah, blah, blah. This is actually going to be earmarked money that goes to people's healthcare. So in California, when you notice that the rest of the community is able to solve the healthcare issue maybe before the rest of the country, you should be a proud billionaire to say, wow, look what I've contributed to and done. So
Minnesota had money earmarked for child care centers and for medical stuff and for all sorts of things, and there are people involved in the process, and that's where
people can fail. People can fail, and I think that it could also present this anxiety for people that are already thinking about how to live and grow their business in California, and constantly figure out how to get to that tier. Even though, say, if it's a millionaire, you're getting taxed at a different level. Nobody has tiers for people with a lot of money, but when you think about the level to go from some people, a small business owner, to the point where you could be $1 million making business, which doesn't even make you wealthy in some cases. It just makes you decently comfortable in California for some business owners. You don't want to think about another tax coming down the pike. And you think if it starts with the people that have 100 million, it could easily trickle down to the people that have 1 million, 100,000, and so forth.
Even Bill Gates, who I don't particularly like and who's very liberal of disposition, I remember him saying something like, I don't remember what the exact numbers was, but you take 20% of my income, the government, that's fine. I'm happy to part with it. You take 40%, I'm going to start looking to move. Even liberals think that. All right, up next, a new YouTube documentary making bold new allegations of rampant fraud in Minnesota, what I referred to. The response from the FBI coming up. We'll be right back.